Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, 10-Day Charming Vietnam Educational Journey Overview. My name is Cara Kurtz, and I am the Business Development Coordinator here at ASTA, and I will be the organizer for today's presentation. For today's presentation, we are very happy to welcome ASTA's very own Robert Duglin, Vice President of International Membership and Expansion for ASTA. Robert, also known as Bob, is a Pennsylvania native. He attended both Temple University and Penn State. He has been a successful travel advisor and has been involved in the travel industry for over 25 years. Formerly owned a brick and mortar agency. He is currently a resident of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And again, Bob, beautiful Pennsylvania native. He was born and raised in the Philadelphia area. And we're very excited to have him with us today. So before we get started, I'd like to point out a few important features on your screen that will allow you to interact with us via the web. We'll be answering your questions at the end of this presentation. To ask a question, you'll be using your GoToWebinar pane. Near the bottom of this pane, there's an area that says questions. If you click the arrow next to where it says questions, this will open up a window pane, which you'll be using to communicate with me. If you're having trouble hearing this presentation, please make sure that your speakers are turned all the way up. And if you've called in, please try hanging up and dialing back in again. You can send me any technical issues via the questions pane, and I will try to answer them via the same pane to the best of my ability. Please note that all audience members are muted, with an exception of Ms. Lynn Pham. Ms. Lynn, you are not going to be muted today because we will be asking for your help with some of our questions that we have come in. But we definitely are so excited to have everyone join us today. Background noise would be prohibitive, and we just want to ensure that everyone can hear this entire presentation. Finally, a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and will be available for your on-demand viewing on asta.org by the end of the week. And without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome Bob. Bob, please take it away.
No, thank you very much, Cara, and for the kind introduction as well. And as I listen to that, over 25 years, I think what she's trying to tell you is I'm old. So joining us today also is my colleague, Corey Bailey, in our membership department. Corey is working with us closely on the FAM, and will actually be joining us in Vietnam. So we're really excited to have you with us, Corey. And I also have Lynn Pham, one of our members, who will be going with us. Lynn was with us last time in Vietnamese, and as you may pick up from her last name, she is of Vietnamese heritage. And Lynn, thank you for being online. So without any further ado, let's dig into it. So what we're going to review today are basically what we're going to see and do. Vietnam travel market, we're going to let you know your tours and your meals are included. Your internal flights, your transfers and ground are included. They've added a complimentary 2-night post-FAM for us, and the date originally was through April 8th, now it's through April 10th. And then we have an optional tour for you by popular request to Siem Reap and Angkor Wat. And if you haven't been, that's a place you must see. So what do you need to do to attend? And I've looked at the list of those that are online, and it looks like half of you have already signed up and half of you haven't. So if you've already signed up, you definitely need to do these things. If you haven't, excuse me, if you're thinking about it, this is what needs to be done. Now, right now, 53 of 60 spots were taken. As of yesterday morning, 44 were gone, and we only had 50 spots. But the Vietnamese Tourism Administration fortunately gave us 10 more people. So you need to register at asta.org under Educational Journeys, or contact Corey, cbailey@asta.org, and Corey's phone number is up there. You need to apply for a visa for Vietnam. I'll show you how to do that on the next screen. You have your choice of 3 post-FAMs, and once you select that, we ask you to please stick with it because it includes internal flights. So all that information has to go over to Vietnam. They have to set that up, and it'll be a little bit hairy to try and change the flights. Excuse me. Now, you'll also have a choice of Hoi An or Hue for one of the trips on days 7 and 8. And Lynn, if I'm pronouncing anything wrong, please let me know. And then the next thing that I have underlined on there, make sure you have travel insurance. Make sure you have travel insurance, and please make sure you have travel insurance. And, whether you're going to Vietnam or whether you're just going down the street for dinner, anything can happen anywhere at any time. So please please have travel insurance. Take a look at the pre-fam option for CM rates, see if it's something you're interested in. When you purchase your air, we're flying into Hanoi and out of Saigon, unless you're doing the pre-fam, and we'll go over that. Corey and I will be contacting you for your flight information so we can make sure you have transfers. If you come in early or stay later, extra hotel nights will be available. We'll know exactly what the hotels are in a couple of weeks. They are all 5-star properties. And this weekend is Tet Lunar New Year in Vietnam. Chinese New Year's the same date. So just like our Christmas, New Year's holiday, everything in Vietnam is going to be shut down for about a week. So that's why it'll be after that when we find out. Another thing I've learned is please bring U.S. dollar bills in 1s, 5s, and 10s. You'll find it's very handy for purchases and tips. You're going to, we're going to be out and about, and you're going to have, some souvenir vendors out there with some pretty cool stuff, and you're going to want to be able to buy it, and it'll be a lot easier if you have those bills. And then note, as with anything, the itineraries and the hotels are always subject to change. Now, here's how you apply for a visa to Vietnam. And you need to go to the Vietnamese Embassy website, the official website, and I'll show you a picture of it. Vietnamese Embassy-USA-org. Do not go to any other spot to get your visa because they're going to charge you for it. It might be a third party. If you don't remember what that website is, just Google to make sure you're at the U.S. Vietnamese Embassy website. Then you'll click on Visa to Vietnam, choose option 2. It's apply online for a loose leaf visa. And when you're there, you want to have a credit card, a headshot photo similar to what's in your passport, and scan a copy of your passport photo page, because you can upload all that, and it literally takes you a couple of minutes. If after you've applied, you have any problems with the visa, let me know. My email is bob@asta.org. We have some very good friends inside the Vietnamese Embassy in D.C. that will help us out. And actually, this is the website you'll see for the embassy. The Ambassador Kim, up in the upper right hand, he knows ASTA. He hosted our board of directors for a dinner at the embassy a few months back. So we're well covered there. Then when you see this page, go down here to the lower right where it says Visa to Vietnam. You'll click on that, and this is what you'll see. You can do any of these options here. I know some of you were in D.C. and you might be able to just go down and walk in, although I'm sure parking is always pleasant in D.C. So the easiest thing to do is option 2, apply online and receive loose leaf visa by mail. It'll take you just a few minutes as long as you have the photo, the passport page, and a credit card handy. You can apply either for a single entry or a multiple entry visa. There is a cost difference. For the purpose of this FAM, you only need a single entry, but if you want to go back again, get a multiple entry and save yourself the hassle of getting another visa. Processing time is 3 days, but because we're headed into New Year, it might take an extra week or so. But again, we'll make sure you get your visa without a problem. Then let's take a look at the itinerary. And a lot of the pictures that you see here are pictures that I took the last time I was in Vietnam with this group. So these aren't just, random shots out there. When you come in on the March 31st, or if you come in a day earlier, that's even better. You'll get a half-day tour if you're a morning arrival. Everyone will have a welcome dinner. And then that night, we'll be staying in a 5-star hotel in Hanoi. I'll share what those hotels are with you a little later. You can see there's just a street scene from Hanoi on there. There's a shop. The Maison Centrale, that is the famous, or I should say infamous Hanoi Hilton, where Senator McCain was held. And then a beautiful scene on the right. And it's absolutely fascinating to me because I don't think I've ever been anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world where people love Americans more and were friendlier to Americans in Vietnam. And I think that was typified by Senator McCain, who not only went back but made good friends with those that were at one time, his foes or our foes. So the second day, we're going to be honored guests at the opening of Vietnam International Travel Market. You can see there's a couple photos there of myself at the entrance and then our delegation on the right. Lynn is the one in the middle in the dark hair and the dark sweater. And then the picture in the center is the water pump theater, where he'd gone to a show later that night. So in the morning, we'll go to the grand opening, we'll do a VIP tour, and then we'll head out on a city tour. Don't worry about the suit and tie, that's only me. For the gentlemen, a nice shirt, for the ladies, a skirt or business, type of attire just for that day is fine. Then around overnight, we'll be back in Hanoi. And then the next day is our second day at Vietnam Travel Mart. And this time, we're always a part of a very important delegation. They're going to be doing a special presentation for us. We've got B2B meetings with a lot of local Vietnamese suppliers and a gala dinner. If you look in the lower right, you can see Anthony Bourdain and President Obama. That wasn't quite a gala dinner. That was something they filmed in Hanoi for Anthony Bourdain's No Reservations. If you have, a streaming service, see if you can go and find Anthony Bourdain's series from Vietnam, both Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi. It's absolutely fascinating. And if you go to this spot today for Bun Cha, they've got the table under plastic. It's really kind of cool because it was obviously a big deal for a very small mom and pop restaurant. Then the next days after that, day 4 and 5 to me are some of the most fascinating days I've ever had anywhere in the world. We're going to be divided up into 2 groups, but we're going to do the same thing. One group will go to Ha Long Bay, and that's what you see the photo below. The other group will go to Nin Binh, which you see to the left and the right. Basically, what the differences are is Ha Long Bay, you've got these karst mountain figures out in the water, and at Nin Binh, that's a river that you see, that's not the ocean. And, we're going through in these canoes and these boats, as you see in the upper right. Absolutely beautiful. You saw the last King Kong movie that was about 2 years ago. That was all filmed right around Nin Binh. And then, that night we were there, and they're going to do the same thing. They had a very special dinner for us in Nin Binh. We had a great chance to interact with the folks from local tourism and see some of the local culture with the music and the show. So it was really a great day. And plus, we got a chance to visit Embroidery Village, which is really kind of cool to see, how folks are working, and we're able to purchase items there as well, and the prices are amazing. And then from there, we go to Da Nang. So we're going to fly from Hanoi to Da Nang. Your flights are included. Some of the sites you're going to see are the Dragon Bridge, which is in the center below. And that was actually designed by an American architect. It's probably 2 or 3 years old. On Saturday nights, they shut the bridge down, and that dragon actually breathes fire. And then we'll see the Lin Ung Pagoda and the Han Market. And the Han Market on the right kind of reminds me of Budapest, the Central Market. If anybody's been there, it's just a great combination of, foods and fruits and vegetables and local meats and handicraft items, and it's really kind of cool. So I know we're really going to enjoy that day. I'm really, really looking forward to Da Nang. And then from there, you're going to have your choice of either going to Hue or Hoi An. You'll be able to discover the World Heritage Sites in central Vietnam in Hue, which is the ancient capital of Vietnam. I think that was the royal capital. Or Hoi An, which is Hoi An ancient town, Ba Na Hill, and the beaches. On the left are 2 pictures from Hue. On the right are the ones from Hoi An and the Highlands. And you notice that bridge, that's actually 2 hands, the sculpture of 2 hands holding a pedestrian bridge. And even though that may look old in the photos, I don't think that bridge is 5 years old. So, you ask me which you should choose. I don't know. They're both so fascinating. Lynn, what do you think about these 2 cities? What do you choose?
I would choose Hoi An because it has a lot more, it's more vibrant, it has a lot more shoppings, and it's a more interesting city. Hue is more for history, heritage. So if you're interested in that, that's my take in the 2 cities.
Great. Thank you very much, Lynn. Appreciate that. And then we're going to go down to Saigon, to Ho Chi Minh City. Your flights are included. And these are some of the things that there. Notre Dame Cathedral on the left, the Central Post Office on the right. The Central Post Office is now more or less a museum and a market. It's really kind of cool. They have the old wooden phone booths. You can see them kind of on the left and the right, but it's very much up to date. The ones on the left all have internet kiosks, and the ones on the right all have ATMs. So they're definitely in with the program. And Cara, can you hear me?
Of course, Bob, loud and clear.
Okay. The only reason I ask is I just had a power blip here, so I'm going to make sure I didn't lose you. Okay. And then after we're in Saigon, you're going to have your choice of one of 3 different fam trips. Now, the first one is Discover the Mekong Delta, where you'll have a chance to discover floating villages, floating markets, and kind of enjoy life on the bustling Mekong River. It's really fascinating because you have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people living and working on the river, and you can see how life goes. It's really, really fascinating, and that's something you definitely want to consider. Now, another option is you can head to the Western Highlands, to Dai Loc City, to learn about the Highland culture and see some of the Western architecture. As you may know, Vietnam was part of France at one time, and some of the architecture, including that Eiffel Tower on the left, is actually Dai Loc City. You can see how beautiful it is with the mountains and the lakes in front of you, and then the rice paddies on the right-hand side. So the weather's a little cooler up in that way, Lynn, if I'm not mistaken.
Sorry, Bob, you're correct. It's cooler in the highland. It's
okay.
Part of the country.
Okay. Thanks. And then we'll go the opposite way. For our other option is in the south at Nha Trang, which is a beach resort area, and it's also got a lot of the Champa culture, one of the ancient cultures in Vietnam. So you're going to have a chance to see a real nice combination of culture in some of the beach resort area. So those are the 3 choices. And again, once you choose, we ask you to please stick with it. So if you're going with friends or others, make sure that you're all on the same page, because once we get there, we're really not going to be able to make any changes because of the flights. And then what are some of the hotels that we're going to be staying at? These are the list of some of them. Some of the names you recognize, the Sol Melia, the Movenpick, the Hotel de l'Opera in Hanoi. That was actually the venue for the talks between Trump and Kim earlier last year. So, you know, there's a little bit of recent history there. And then we've got the Movenpick and the Daewoo as well. Last time we were there, we stayed at a boutique hotel. No, you would have never heard of the name, but it was absolutely amazing. Maybe 50 or 60 rooms. So there are a lot of hotels like that. As you can see, names you may not recognize, like the Hong San Peace Hotel. These are beautiful 5-star properties. Now, we'll know where we're staying after Tet New Year, and we'll make sure if you're flying in early or staying later that you can stay at that same hotel in Hanoi or in Ho Chi Minh. And then let's talk about the pre-fam at Siem Reap. If you registered earlier, we didn't have all this information up yet, so I want to share that with you now. You're going to have a VIP arrival and visa service provided. So you're going to have somebody meet you and make sure you have a visa. Even if you don't do this, your visas are on arrival in Cambodia, so you don't need to get one in advance. Transfer dinner and overnight. The hotel is the Shintamani Shack. And when I first heard that, I thought, oh my God, until I did my research. And I'll share info on the hotel with you on the next screen. You'll have a 2-day pass and tours of Siem Reap and Angkor Wat. The 2-day pass is to Angkor Wat, one of the wonders of the world. Most of your meals are included. We're going to have a picnic lunch at a stilt house. It's a culture show and dinner, tour of the city, and a farewell dinner. All your transfers to the airport, you know, for your flight to Hanoi as well. Now, should you decide to take this, you know, there are a couple things that we need to look at, but I just want to share the Shintamani Shack Hotel with you. The first thing I did was go to TripAdvisor, and I found this hotel was 26th out of 539 hotels rated on TripAdvisor. It had all excellent ratings and 5 stars, so this is a really beautiful hotel. The last time I was in Siem Reap, I stayed at a very similar hotel to this. Never heard of it, wasn't part of another group, but the service and the accommodations were just absolutely superb. And the company doing this with us, XO Travel, they're kind of a high-end luxury provider. And this is about half price what they would normally charge. And then what's in Siem Reap and Angkor Wat? You know, to me, I look at the upper left and I see beautiful people, really sweet, kind people. Angkor Wat in the middle is one of the most amazing things you'll ever see in your life. One of the still villages on the right, that was a dinner photo I had taken on the lower right. And then the night market, as you see below. It's a very, very vibrant city. Now, a couple of things, as I mentioned, Exo Tours is doing it. If you are going to take this tour, what you need to do is fly into Siem Reap. Siem Reap has good connections from all over Asia. So you'll be able to connect there from Tokyo, Singapore, you know, however you're coming in. There's a lot of flights to Siem Reap all the time. When you depart, I'm recommending that you book from Siem Reap to Hanoi, and this is the only thing not included with the FAM. Siem Reap to Hanoi on March 29th on Vietnam Airlines 836 at 5:55 p.m. If you have Delta Sky Miles, Vietnam Airlines is a Sky Miles partner, and that way, you know, you don't have to take that flight, but at least everybody will be going, you know, together with the same group, and it's the only airline that's part of a U.S. alliance, so you can get your miles. Now, if you want to sign up on this, you go back into your registration and you can add it or contact Corey. Again, your Cambodian visa is available on arrival. Our tour minimum is 16 people. You'll get a full refund if we don't meet that number. The cost is $13.99 double, $16.99 single. And I'll have a pretty good idea next week on whether or not this is going to go. Just, you know, from this webinar today, we'll see, you know, how many people contact Corey or sign up online. And Corey, do you have any comments or questions on you know, how people should contact you, or any hints for anybody?
No, the fastest way for me is always by email, and then you know, if it's easiest, I can hop on the phone with you really quickly. But you know, if you just give me a heads up that you want to register or add anything to it, I'm happy to take care of that for you pretty quickly over the phone. Anyway.
Thank you, Corey. Okay, great. Now I'd like to give you a quick update with what's going on with ASTA, just a couple of things to share with you. As you may know, ASTA now is able to offer health insurance to independent contractors and our members. If this is something that you need, just go to asta.org. We've only had this up and going since December, and already we have over 600 inquiries, and this is an old slide. There's about 450 people that are currently enrolled. And the price is pretty good, so something to consider. And then, you know, what industry events does ASTA have coming up? If any of you are going to be at our legislative day next week, or corporate advisory council or chapter president's meeting, you know, I'll be there. I'll look forward to seeing you. Corey, you'll be there too, won't you?
I will be around for legislative day.
Okay, good. So we'll look for you and for Cara as well. Then we have the Premium Business Summit, May 7th to 9th for the larger agencies at the JW Marriott in Austin, Texas. The ASTA Global Convention is August 25th to 28th, and the ASTA Small Business Network Day is August 28th. If you were signing up, you know, this is a little hint, sign up as part of the Small Business Network, because there's going to be a reception for that portion of during ASTA Global Convention that's going to be at Nationals Park, where the Washington Nationals play ball. They were the World Series winner this past year, and it should be an exciting night. If you're a Mets fan, that's who they're playing that night. And as Cara indicated, I'm from Philadelphia, so, you know, the heck with both houses. But it's exciting to be in a city where somebody's won a World Series. And then our ASTA Destination Expo this year will be December 3rd to 6th in Dubrovnik, with 5 to 7 day pre and post fans. And the other educational journeys we have this year are to Turkey. So if you want to go there right before you go to Vietnam, we have Vietnam. We have 7-day villa educational journeys in Tuscany, and we're just adding Ukraine and Romania as well. So it'll be a very, very interesting and fascinating year in terms of educational journeys. So now really, you know, Cara, if we have questions and answers, I'd just like to open up the floor at this point.
All right, Bob. While we jump into questions, if you can go ahead and go back to the slide right before the one with the visa information on it, it looks like we have one of our attendees wanting to screenshot that information.
Okay. This one? Let me pull this up so it's full screen.
Perfect. Thank you. And I have received confirmation that that is the slide that she was looking for. So thank you so much, Bob. All of the other questions, majority, you have answered throughout the presentation. So we did have some questions come in regards to what hotels you were staying at, and you did cover that, as well as what pre and post FAMs there are. So if we could go maybe to asta.org, Bob, and you could show us exactly where to find the FAM opportunities, I think that that would be pretty helpful for our attendees.
We can do that.
Thank you so much. And while you are pulling that up, I will start with our first official question.
Okay, I should have that up on the screen for the registration page.
Yes, perfect. I see that. Thank you so much. So all of the pre and post opportunities are listed right in here in the registration, just so everyone knows. It looks like our first question is going to be, is there reliable Wi-Fi where you're staying?
Yes. As a matter of fact, countries like Vietnam almost are better set up for Wi-Fi than we are, only because their technology is fairly new in what they've installed, whereas, you know, we kind of evolved into it. Vietnam jumped into the 21st century. So there will be reliable. And I have T-Mobile myself, which is free worldwide data and free worldwide text messaging. It's part of my package. And my coverage was great all over Vietnam when I was there. So.
Perfect. Thank you, Bob. Going back to the FAM, is there going to be an additional cost for the pre and post FAMs?
For the pre-FAMs, the only cost is for CM REAP. That is $13.99 double, $16.99 single. It is a luxury FAM, and it's about half what it normally goes for. The post FAMs, the three that I had mentioned, they're all included. So that's part of your registration. That was something our friends in Vietnam did for us extra. So you'll have your chance to choose the Highlands, the Mekong Delta, or the beach. And I'll go back to those screens again, so what your options are.
Thank you so much, Bob. Can we please clarify what airports that our attendees should use when flying in and out, and particularly for the optional pre-FAM?
Okay, for the optional pre-FAM, you're going to fly into the city of Siem Reap, S-I-E-M-R-E-A-P. It's a major airport that's there. Well, it's kind of like the ones in Hawaii. You know, it's not really big, but it's handling mostly tourism. But you're going to be able to connect from any major hub in Asia, you know, to get to Siem Reap. And again, I put this slide back up if anybody wants to take a screenshot of it. You'll also need to book your own flight from Siem Reap to Hanoi for the beginning of the FAM. And that's what we have up there, Vietnam Airlines Flight 836. I think the fare is about $100. It's not a lot of money. And you don't have to take that flight. You'll be met. That's the one I recommend.
Thank you, Bob. And if you are not partaking on the optional pre-FAM, would this still be the same information where they should fly in and out of? Correct.
You're going to fly into Hanoi, and you're going to fly out of Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon. I think HAN is the airport code for Hanoi, and Saigon is, I think it's SGN or SNG, but you'll see that come up.
Actually, one of our attendees did just write in and say, coming back from USA from Saigon is city code HMC. It's not HGN-HO. Chime in. I could completely have just said that wrong, but it looks like it is not SNG, it's HMC.
Well, that's a new code. Good information. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. It looks like one of our other attendees is asking if we have a shared option. By shared option, I do believe that they're asking if we offer double and triple occupancy rooms, which we do. If that is not the question, please feel free to write back in and clarify. Bob, our next question for you is going to be, if I arrive on March 30th, do I need to arrange my own transfer to the hotel?
And we'll take care of that for you. You know, just as long as we know. And what we're going to do probably in about 10 days, 2 weeks is request your flight information. And then from that, we'll be able to tell, you know, when you're coming in, whether or not you'll need a hotel. We'll let you know if there's any additional cost for the hotel. But yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on that for sure. And I should mention there are no triples available, only doubles or singles. And the person may have been asking if we can match them up with a roommate. We don't have anything official that we can, but talk to Corey or myself. If anybody's looking for a roommate, we can try and work with you on that. Now, the only issue is we're at 53 of 60 spots, so I doubt we're going to have much left beyond the end of this week. There will be a wait list, and we will be talking to the Vietnamese Tourism Administration for more spots.
All right. Thank you, Bob. We do have another question. It looks like somebody is requesting the weather information for March into April.
And Lynn, I'll let you help me out with this here as well. Last time we were there, it was, I would say, 70s and 80s. The humidity wasn't too bad yet, but, you know, if we're out on some of the excursions, you're probably going to want to have shorts as an option. Lynn, what can you share on the weather from what you recall?
In Hanoi, it would be in the 70 and 80. But when we get down to Central, to Hue and Ho Chi Minh City, it's going to get a lot hotter. By the time we were in Ho Chi Minh City last time, we were in the mid to high 90s.
Okay.
We'll be in the 90s in Hue, and then we'll be in the mid to high 90s in Ho Chi Minh City. So it was hot.
Yeah, that's important to know. Thank you, Lynn. And Cara, have we got any other questions?
Our last question also in reference to what our attendees should be packing is there any fancy dinners planned or any receptions that they might need a fancier outfit for? Is everything casual?
There are going to be a lot of gala dinners during this thing with entertainment. By and large, I would say business casual would be the best way to dress. You know, just a nice shirt for the gentleman and slacks, and you know, should be more than enough. And for the ladies, whatever, you know, I'm not really good in business casual for ladies, but whatever you think is business casual will be good.
Thank you, Bob. And before we log off, we did just have one final question come in. For the tours, are they escorted or is everybody going to be on their own? And also, when people are arriving in Hanoi from the pre-fam, will they need an extra 2 nights in Hanoi that they should book separately?
That's a very good point. I'm glad, you know, Cara, you mentioned that, and whoever brought that up. I did forget to mention that. Yeah, we will need to bridge that with a couple of nights hotel. And the only reason I set the date that way was to give you one breathing day in between the start of the FAM and the end of what you're doing in Siem Reap. And again, this doesn't mean that you can't stay an extra day in Siem Reap and go later, but just, you know, trying to keep everyone together if possible. Everything is escorted, every tour, everywhere. There will be free time for you. You know, last time, I'm going to do the same this time. I'm going to, you know, show up 2 days early. Hanoi is a delightful city to walk around. It's very safe from a crime perspective, from a crossing the street perspective with 1,000 motorbikes, maybe a little bit different. But, you know, these are very safe cities, very friendly for Americans. And, you know, one thing I should mention, when we were in Saigon, in Ho Chi Minh City, one of the places that we went was they call it the War Remnants Museum. And it's a museum that's pretty much about the Vietnam War from the Vietnamese side. And as you go through this museum, you know, obviously, you know, in their eyes, we were not the good guys in that war. And you see the Life magazine photograph of the girl that was napalm running down the street, and a picture of Nixon riding on a bomb. And you look at this and, for me, I'm feeling, oh, God, these people hate us. And then I realized that was the furthest thing from the truth. I'm sitting down, and these college-age girls are sitting next to me, and one of them turns and asks me if I'm Australian. And I said, no, I'm American. Oh, they started to shriek. They were looking forward to starting Stanford University in a couple of months. They wanted to hear all about where they should go, what they should see. And I look up, there's a teenage, Vietnamese boy on his iPhone with his Nike hat on. So, kind of like for us where, history can be very abstract. I think it's the same thing there. And I don't, want anyone to feel any discomfort because, I don't think I've ever been anywhere where Americans were more loved or welcomed than we are in Vietnam. So that's kind of my input there. And Cara, with that, do we have any other
we
any
do
other
have
questions?
a few more questions that came in, and I do also want to add a little note from Lynn, just to go back to our Wi-Fi question. Lynn went ahead and wrote me separately, and she said last year that they all had Wi-Fi on their buses. Just something to think about, not guaranteeing that will happen this year, but she did say that that is a possibility. It looks like we have two more questions that came in, Bob. And our first question is going to be, are our guests welcome to come to these dinners? So am I correct in saying that if their guest is registered for the event, then that won't be a problem?
Well, actually, all guests are going to be asked to attend everything. So,
perfect.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
So just as long as their guest is registered, correct?
I'm sorry?
So just as long as their guest is registered, correct? Not if they have like a family member that's hanging out in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of questions regarding the airport code for Hanoi. So I did go ahead and Google it, and just so everyone is aware, it's HAN. So HAN is 100% going to be what that airport code for Hanoi is. And with that said, Bob, we are officially out of questions, at least for the good of the group. I'm sure that everyone has Bob's contact information, so you guys can reach out to him, myself, or Corey should you have any questions that we did not touch on today. And as I had mentioned, this webinar was being recorded, so if you would like to listen to this webinar again at a later point in time, or maybe your roommate wasn't able to join us, please make sure to send them the link to this webinar. It will be up on our ASTA.org video resource library by the end of the day tomorrow. And I'm sorry, Bob, one more question before we log off. Will the group be back in Saigon on the 10th to fly home, or will they be back on the 11th?
The group will be back on, let me look, I want to say they're going to be back on the 10th. What you can't see is I'm looking through my paperwork here. Yeah, the group will be returning late on the afternoon of the 10th. They'll have dinner and a hotel included, so you can leave on the night of the 10th. A lot of the flights that are connecting you back to the U.S. leave in the wee hours, or you can just stay another night. Your hotel's already included. Me, I'd recommend you stay another night. That's a great city to explore. I also want to mention something on airfare. We don't have any air deals. There's some pretty good pricing out there. And I know when we usually think of going to Asia, we think of crossing the Pacific. But actually crossing the Atlantic, there's some good deals right now with one stop on Turkish Airlines and on Emirates. So take a look at that as an option. I know, most likely I'm going to be using Turkish, at least for the return. I think Corey's going out on Turkish. And it's a real easy stop. And if you do have a longer layover on Turkish Airlines, they have all sorts of stopover packages they throw in. So just something to think about. And with that, please feel free to contact any of us. Cara, I appreciate your time today, and Lynn and Corey and all of our valuable members. And EJ Kelly, I know you're out there. I didn't have a chance to see you the other night, but I'm glad you're joining us. So that's a shout out to someone in the audience. Thanks.
No, thank you for such a great presentation, Bob.
Sure.
All right, with that said, everyone have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar.
Okay, bye everyone.